I imagine you've been hearing stories of the United States possibly losing its reserve currency status to China and a handful of other countries who prefer the yuan to the United States dollar.
Analysts have been warning of the dollar's impending doom.
This is a pretty complex situation that I'm going to try to explain as simply as possible. First, what is a reserve currency? Well, throughout history, there is often a dominant currency that people feel most comfortable using when engaging in trade or holding as a store of value. This is nothing new. Going back 400 years, the Spanish silver dollar was the reserve currency of the world. It was followed by the Dutch guilder, which was followed by the British pound, and finally in the 1940s, the United States dollar became the reserve currency of the world, and it has held that position ever since. So what's the point of having a reserve currency today, and why was this given to the United States after World War II? Most currencies have fluctuating value. Let's say you're buying a product from England using Mexican pesos. As each currency fluctuates in price, it can affect the profitability or stability of your purchase and that of the seller. Gold being heavy and not easily divisible was a cumbersome means of exchange for most people in the world.
I love gold!
Knowing this, countries sought an easier way to trade, and the Bretton Woods Agreement was signed in 1944. This agreement said the United States dollar is the world reserve currency, and it was pegged to gold at $35 per ounce. The United States emerged from World War II as the dominant global superpower.
More than half the world's oil, 2/3 of its gold, and the talents of 140 million people ready to build modern America.
This gave the country significant influence in the negotiations leading up to the Bretton Woods Conference, and it also helped to establish the United States dollar as the world's most trusted currency. The U.S. economy was also seen as relatively stable and well managed compared to other countries in the aftermath of World War II.
The reconversion of war plants to peacetime pursuits is going ahead at full speed. And once more, the automobile factories are humming as huge stamping presses form the bodies of the first automobiles produced since the spring of 1942.
The country had a large and diverse economy, a sophisticated financial system, and a central bank that was respected for its monetary policy expertise. The Bretton Woods Agreement was based on a system of trust and cooperation among member countries, and the United States government was seen as a reliable and trustworthy partner. This helped build confidence in the United States dollar as a store of value and reserve currency. The Bretton Woods Agreement was based on a fixed exchange rate system in which other currencies were pegged to the US dollar at a fixed rate, and the dollar was in turn pegged to gold. This made the US dollar a stable and predictable currency, which helped to build confidence in its value as a reserve currency. This meant the other currencies of the world would also float along with the US dollar, and inflation or devaluation of your money was inevitable. But the United States couldn't actually pay what they were supposed to pay. Many investors were predicting the fall of the dollar. So in an effort to subvert the rules of the Bretton Woods Agreement, President Nixon removed the United States from the gold standard.
I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold,
basically dooming us all as the value of our money was stripped year after year. Just look at the price of gold today, which is around $2,000 per ounce. That is how much your dollar has devalued. It now takes $2,000 to buy what $35 bought just 52 years ago. And that's because we were removed from the gold standard. Today, China, Russia, Brazil, and a handful of other countries want to use their own currency instead of the United States dollar for trade.
But now the BRICS nations, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, have announced plans to develop a new currency. Their goal is to reduce reliance on the US dollar and other Western currencies as well.
The United States dollar is still the most widely used currency for trade, but the yuan is reportedly now the most used currency per capita in the world. What this means is for right now, most commodity and stock trades are still in US dollars. The dollar is still widely considered the strongest and safest currency to hold, and people do hold this as a store of value. Will this change in the future? Absolutely it will change. The question is when. Just look at history. How many of you want to hold Dutch guilders as your life savings? The point I'm trying to push here is that the changing of the dominant currency has happened many times before, and on average, happens about once a century. When a country obtains reserve currency status, they tend to move up financially in the world. Their standard of living and wages rise. Eventually, this rise leads to costs being too high in that country and debts mount, since it is typically cheaper for a reserve country to borrow money. Money that comes easily is often spent easily, and this cycle continues until a new country takes the top position. I believe the United States is in its final stages as the reserve currency of the world. Our debts are unmanageable.
Look here, the White House says that it's trying to reach out to lawmakers from both sides of the aisle to come to a bipartisan agreement to either suspend or raise that $31 trillion debt limit. That would mean that the government can keep borrowing money.
Our cost of living is extremely high, and our spending habits are out of control.
Tonight, those doorbuster deals at times creating chaos.
We were spoiled by easy money for a long time, and that time is soon coming to an end. This doesn't mean it's happening tomorrow. It takes years to transition to a new reserve currency, but I do believe that transition has now begun.